This conference will now be recorded.
You guys able to see my screen now?
Yes.
So there are few articles that I published in DZone. Okay, even if you type in Google, you can find that. Okay. This is my article which I have published in DZone. Okay, so yeah. So yesterday when we talked about something called performance engineering process, right? Which I mean, where the performance engineer will involve in different phases of performance testing life cycle and engineering life cycle. So my main intention of writing this article is to highlight few points that we can avoid before some planning of a load test. Okay, with clear requirements or with clear NFRs or BVMs or SLAs. So in this, what we are doing is we are clearly telling like what are all the different things that you can plan to create some kind of transparency and which will save the time, cost, and efforts of everyone who is working in your project. So w- the first point I would like to highlight here is every time when someone start a project, right? When someone starts for something called performance testing assignment, before the plan, most of the times they get some misguided approach. Okay, most of them they are not sure about which approach they have to use or what process they have to follow, or what are all the key inputs that they need for doing. You know doing this performance testing to achieve their desired performance goals and test objectives. So here I have clearly mentioned like how we can clearly prepare a plan for any performance testing project, and what are all the available what are all the common mistakes that every performance engineer can avoid, and how you can run your scripts to baseline and benchmark, and how you can come up with a new non-functional test plan to meet your performance requirements. So the first common mistake of every performance project is always unclear requirements, which is missing non-functional requirements and SLAs. This is the one, as I told you multiple times, this is one of the most important phase of every performance engineer with respect to the performance testing lifecycle and engineering lifecycle. So most of them are commonly missed, okay, or misunderstood, or they may not they are not understood clearly from all the business aspects. Even if you have some application in production, or if you have too many inputs from different teams, but majority of the people fail to create a proper plan for performance testing assignments. Okay, and even most of the customers, they are not sure about what TPS they have to achieve, or what is their exact test objectives, for what reasons they want to do this performance testing. For example, if you can take something like for how long do, if you have one application, some kind of a repository application where you have a single sign-on. Once you log into that centralized repository, you have hundreds of applications from there. So it is the customer, or it is the performance engineer, by understanding the production traffic on this application, you need to prioritize all these applications. If you have some 80 to 100 applications in a single centralized console, you need to prioritize them, and you need to identify the customer concern scenarios, key business scenarios, mostly frequently accessed scenarios. By understanding all these inputs, okay, or even if you have all the information handy, sometimes people fail to create a plan, okay, which is not meeting the requirements after multiple sprints or multiple releases. And you have to again, it is the job of a performance engineer to understand or to identify why it is failing. Okay, So so every individual who is working in a project, so it is always his responsibility how best he can gather all the requirements, how he can document them, and how he can follow and how he can execute as per the plan. So like how he can move on as per the plan and how he can publish the comparison report at end of every performance assignment. Okay, showing the stakeholders like what improved with everything for example, from release to release, or from test one run to test two, or how the performance has been improved, how the changes has been affected with respect to performance, like after multiple changes or hot fixes or whatever. Okay, so performance engineers, the main point is he has to take the proper inputs from the stakeholders. That is the primary point, the first point, and he or she has to understand the complete user behavior and the application or product performance goals to successfully isolate the required load and to identify. He has to identify all the degradations easily, and he has to fix them. And the majority of the people, right, I have seen many people who are working in the projects, they don't raise something called performance defect. They don't log that in any of the defect tracking tool. So it is also a best practice whenever you see some performance degradation, or whenever you find an issue, you need to log them. And whenever you document something, for every document that you prepare from your side, as a best practice, you need to take a sign off from your customer. Okay, that is a good sign of creating a good plan. So also, every performance engineer has to understand the importance and impact of other marketing competing products. Like if you take Amazon, right? Uh, One moment, please. If you're, for example, if you're testing Amazon or sorry, I have some throat infection. So if you are testing an e-commerce application like Amazon or Flipkart, right? You always keep the other competing products in mind, like Jabong or Myntra or whatever other products which are facilitating the same functionality, right? So also when you define this as NFR, you also have to travel with other other competing products in the market. You need to get all the details, and you also need to look at what are all the other additional features that the same product is giving, and accordingly you need to distribute the load, and you have to improve the performance in every aspect. So there are some crucial items that you need to understand before starting your performance testing. The first thing is you need to understand your goals, and you need to completely have the vision of building a product or a software. Okay, and you also need to understand how the development process will happen, and how often you have to test, and so you need to understand the cost aspects of all the non-functional requirement gathering of all the NFRs, and also the development process. Okay, and if it is a sprint-based process, right, agile-based process, you need to when you plan your test, you need to, everyone is aware of the agile and sprint-based process, right? You break your product into bits and pieces into something called sprints. So you will follow something called incremental process. Based on that, for every sprint you will get a different NFR. Accordingly, you will test and you will publish the result. So you need to break the stories. You need to break the stories into different parts on sprint basis, and you get the goals or you get the SLAs from different stakeholders, and accordingly you will test. Okay, always this phase that I'm talking about is one of the crucial phase. If you don't have a proper plan or an approach, or if you don't have the complete NFRs handy, 95% of the application that you're testing is a failed one. Okay, you will not see any success rate. So always the first, this is very common mistake that every performance engineer will do. I mean, he wantedly or unwantedly he don't do it, but every time if there are people where I'm hiring some 3 years associate or 4 years associate who just worked on Vusion scripting or JMeter scripting and on analysis, he worked on analysis part for a year. So without any monitoring experience, I don't say that he's not capable of handling the project, but he may not be knowing how to gather all the requirements or how to take the sign off for all the requirements, how to plan the performance testing for the entire 2020 year. So this is this is the important phase where everyone has to focus, and he has to I mean, the performance engineer has to be clear with all the missing NFRs, and he has to get all the complete NFRs, and then he has to take a sign off for all the required documents, and he has to move on with the remaining phases of performance testing lifecycle. Okay, and the second most important point is most of the times, whatever the performance testing results, even I see from many of the people. So the performance testing assignment is like you get some ad hoc request saying that you need to test this functionality with so and so users. You monitor this, tell me what happened to resource utilization and what are the issues that you're seeing and what is uh, throughput and what is response time. So even still, I have seen many people with close to 10 years of experience. It is not that people are not willing to work on different areas. It is always a client requirement. As many of the services-based companies are working for the client, we do what the customer is asking for. That's all, nothing else, right? So what the main problem, one of the main issue here is when you have these performance test results, they are not, once the test is completed, they, how do you give whether the test is a success or not? How do you know that the test went fine? How do you validate that? So even if you look at some of the customers, when I say that if I'm running a test for 1 hour or 2 hours, for the first 5 to 10 minutes, I have seen a 10 percentage of error rate. What do you do now? You continue the test or you stop the test?
You stop the test.
Right? What is the error percentage that you are having actually when you run a test? What is the error percent?
5%.
5%.
5%, right? So when when you're seeing more than 5% of the test, more than 5% of error rate in any of the test, if you're running the test for 2 hours and if you're seeing 8% error rate in the first 10 minutes, you can stop your test. No doubt about it.
But
You
in
can
during the
directly.
soak test, it's going to be more, right? I think soak test is not the concern, I guess.
No, see, when you have error rate, it means that you are having too many failed transactions, right?
Yep.
And again, it depends on what is the priority of that transaction. If you're directly getting HTTP 500, 500, errors of all the transactions, and that means that your server is not responding somehow. It can be 503 or 501 or unauthorized or server not found or service unavailable. You can have too many issues. So if you are an experienced performance engineer with a lot of skills, when you see some more than 5% of error rate in the first 10 minutes, you have to stop the test, no matter what flavor of testing that you're doing. Okay. Some customers can ask you, no problem, you can continue the test. But by the time when you complete the test for 1 hour within 2 hours of test duration frame, you will see some 30 to 40% of error rate, which cannot be validated at all. You cannot come up with a conclusion saying that to some extent the performance is good. Half of the transactions are failing. Even if you give some good think time and even if you test the high prioritized use cases or frequently accessed use cases or some kind of search or making a payment which takes a lot of time, even it doesn't make any sense. So when you get a report, when you publish a report, when you get some test results, you need to ensure that all the results are validated and how the performance has been improved and what is the TPS you have achieved. And you have to, every time when you have multiple runs with the same settings, with the same duration, you need to compare both the reports and you have to clearly explain to the customer saying that what improved with what, from release 1 to release 2, or from this fix to that fix, from fix 1 to, okay. And you keep doing the same thing again and again until and unless you meet the requirements, right? Something like retesting, until and unless the functionality is working fine, you keep testing it, okay. So the same way, depending upon the environment, so there are so many other files that are created, logs or something. So you need to validate your TPS that has been achieved or not. And most of the times, if you clearly see here, I have written an example. If your load test is designed to create 15,000 records, okay, or 150K records per hour, then 15,000 orders should be visible in the database at the end of the test. That is how you validate, right? You create so many orders. Even if you look at some of the scripts, some people don't do correlation. The applications will have, they still have some dynamic values like session IDs for Java applications and event validations, view states for .NET applications. There is something called RSF tokens, some tokens in JMeter which has to be correlated. But even if you try to record, and I mean, I'm talking about people who are new to LoadRunner or JMeter, they correlate the value, but whatever the correlation that they have done uh, is not really working. In the front end, it can, even if you run with multiple iterations for 10 to 20, you can see the script has passed. But when you take that to the controller or performance center or StormRunner cloud or any other BlazeMeter cloud, when you try to run it, what happens is it will pass in the front end, but in the back end, it will not insert the record into the respective table onto the database where your application is accessing. Okay, so the way you evaluate the results is, it is not that I have 1500 parser transactions, 30 parser transactions. You need to get the access to the DB, and if you have a transaction called create order, if you are in 2 hours of test, if you are creating 150K records, 150K orders per hour, then you need to go there and take the help of your DBA and ask him how many records are created from the last 1 hour. There are other metrics from the APM tools which can also give you the complete information of all these things, so that you can validate and you can say that the test went as expected. Whatever the numbers that you're seeing uh, are good enough. I mean, the real numbers, all the transactions happened in the backend. All the activity was successful at the backend, from web to app to DB. Okay. The third point is, I told you, right? Don't know how to do this capacity planning, workload modeling. Okay. Most of the times you don't get, yesterday we spoke a lot about this one. If you don't know how to workload, how to distribute the load across the architecture, if you don't have clear focus and targets of your workload, the project is failed again. The assignment is failed. It will eat a lot of time. It will extend your timeline, and sometimes the project will leave from the organization. Okay, so in a sense, like most of the times, if you take, I mean, I have some good experience with one of the service-based company, TCS. So every time a new client that comes to TCS, right, we get a small assignment, okay, some piece of activity before that client comes to take a contract with the TCS. They hire some 10, they hire some 5 to 6 performance engineers, and they give you a task. So asking what is the approach, how you can improve the performance, how you can define this workload model, how you can capacity model. or how are you validating this performance test results, and they give us some timeline for a month. So when we get some the first phase of this thing, right? So if you don't successfully accomplish that particular task with proper approach or with proper process, or without any documentation, uh, we don't get that contract, and those people will opt for some other vendor like Cognizant or HCL. Okay, so the reason why I explained you this example is, if you don't follow the process, if you don't follow the process, or if you don't have the complete plan handy from your side, or if you don't accomplish the first task, the requirement of that client for 3000 members will go in vain. You will not get that contract for TCS. Okay, so when you have when a client wants to finalize something on his work items, like if he wants to decide whether he wants to give that particular application testing to that particular vendor or not, he initially gives some tasks to the COE team, and if he is satisfied, or if he is okay with whatever we have done for a month with respect to process and other stuff, then he is okay with what we are doing. Okay, so that is a different point. So workload modeling, I have written an article on my LinkedIn wall also. You can completely go through it. You will get some idea on that. And again, the fourth point, if you look at load test duration, right? Most of the times people don't know for how long they have to test, for how much time they need to test. So they opt for different flavors of testing, and majority of the people don't know why they are doing load test and why they are doing stress testing. I'm talking about stakeholders. I'm not talking about performance engineers here. So one moment, please. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah. So here I'm talking about the stakeholders, not about the performance engineers here. The reason is because there are few clients who they don't listen to the performance engineers, or they don't listen to the team. So whatever the feedback that they get from the production users, from the real users, whatever their intention is like, they want an immediate fix. Okay, which cannot be possible at all, which cannot happen overnight. Okay, so he wants to test with a minimal number of users for 30 minutes or 15 minutes. For example, I have a customer who wants to run a test with 20,000 users for 30 minutes, because he is seeing issues only after 18,000 users. So that is not happening only within a half an hour of time. It is happening 7 to 8 times in a 24 hours of time frame. So there is a process for that, and there is one kind of approach where you need to have some multiple rounds of testing with different durations. Like you have to test with 3 hours, or 6 hours or 12 hours time frame, and you have to see with the consistent load gradually increasing the number of users, and you have to monitor few aspects to understand why that is happening. And remember, even if you have, okay, I have one question here. Even if you have a prod like environment, okay, what I'm trying to say here is I have an environment which is same as production. Now, whatever the issues that I am seeing in production, I am not seeing the same issues in test environment. Can you tell me why?
I mean, an environment means maybe it is similar, but there could be possible other aspects also, right? I mean, it could not be 100% matchable, isn't it? It could be a kind of difference between the environments. It could be network or something else. So,
Anything? Network is one thing.
And yet, that is the real users. We already spoke on that, and these are the synthetic, right? So that
Right.
is also, because when a user, a real user, sometimes the automation, okay, log in, do the things, log out, log in, do the things, log out. But each user, a real user, sometimes few people log in, they just keep open and go home. That means those kind of situations happens, right? So definitely you cannot match 100% your synthetic with reality. So that also one reason. It's just generic, I'm saying.
Excellent. Thank you. So the reason why I'm explaining this example is because the customer wants to see the same issue what he's seeing in production. So he is ready to invest on the money part, on the budget part. But can all of you place your call on mute? Yeah, thank you. So the customer wants to see the same issue on his dedicated performance environment as well. He's saying that whatever I have in production, I have the same thing on. I have the same thing on test environment now. Please go ahead and reproduce that issue. That is not possible. The reason is because the configurations are different. The versions that you use, the different tools or softwares that you use on WebAppDB servers are different. Most of the times the configuration settings will definitely vary. And another important thing here is the data that you have on a production is huge, very, very huge. If you take any database, right, it is handling some trillions and billions of records. You cannot bring all the dummy data into the test environment, and you cannot simulate the same thing on the dedicated environment, and you cannot reproduce the same issue on the database what you're seeing in real time on the production side. Okay, if you face any of the question, you have many reasons for this. You can find all the answers for that, but the answer is strictly no. Whatever the issues that you see on production, you don't see the same issues on test environment. Even if it is the same as the test environment, the production environment, if you have the mirror image or the replica of the broad lake environment, you cannot reproduce all the issues, performance issues, degradations that you're seeing in real time. That cannot happen. Okay, so you always need to think about the low test duration, keeping all your test objectives and SLAs in mind, and accordingly you need to define the state of your the duration of the load. You have to decide accordingly. Okay, and if you remember, I have given you, I have already explained you this example, right, about the test data. So uh, I will give you a simple answer. Uh, we have recently done a test, okay, where I need 5 lakh records. All of them are unique. I have to run this test for 8 hours. Unique data means whatever the record that is being inserted or used for once, it cannot be used for the second time. If it is iterated for the second time, the transaction will fail, saying that invalid record. You understood this point? So whenever I send my PAN card number, APYPG something ADEDY something, 11-digit PAN card number that can be used once only in 8 hours test duration. If it goes for the second time, it will fail. Okay, saying that data, invalid record. So with the help of the test data generation tools, you need to identify the format of the data. Okay, when you have such big data, you need to identify the format of the data. For example, as I told you, the PAN card number, APYP, the first 4 letters is alphabetic. The first 5 letters is alphabetic, the next 4 letters is numeric, and the last one is alphabetic. You are identifying the format. You buy some commercial test data generation tool, you give the format, and you give the numbers, and you click generate. It will give you the data. You try to identify the data access path. That means where the user is going. You will identify the data access path into the database, and you'll take the help of the DBA. You will ask him to upload all these records into the respective table where our application is hitting, and you manually search for few records to make sure that all the data is being properly inserted, and you are able to retrieve that records from the application via front end. Once you do this, you will run your load test with 8 hours or 10 hours accordingly. This is how you create test data, bulk test data. If you're testing with, this is only the challenge if you're using a unique test data like credit card numbers or SSN numbers or any of the account numbers. They are unique, and they can be used only for one user or user IDs. When you have such kind of requirements, when you say something called unique, and if you need some huge volume of data in bulk, you take test data, help of test data generation tools, and this is how you'll test. When you test with minimal number of users, continue in a cyclic manner or continue with the last value where the data is not unique, you will need some 20 to 30 or 50 records would be sufficient to do testing for 8 hours or 10 hours, right? So, so that is how you create the test data, and most of the people fail to identify the format of data and how to create the data and what is the size or storage that is required to store the data, like 100 GB of data or 200 GB of data. Will my infrastructure will be okay to handle all this 200 GB or 300 GB of data when I'm running a test with 4 or 8 hours of test? Okay. So the gap between test and production, I have already explained. It is always there. I have given you an example, right? Whatever the issues you see on the production, you don't see the same thing on test environment. There is no direct mathematical formulas which can be used to extrapolate the results, okay? To observe or to compare between two configurations. One is with some i5 and i7, you cannot compare. So if example I have clearly written here, if you look at if a web page is taking 4 seconds to load on one CPU server, will not necessarily load in 1 second on a 4-core CPU, right? Does the performance change if you are running if you're accessing a web page on an i5 and i7 processors? It cannot. Sometimes yes. If that is an issue with that configuration, it is yes. And most of 90% of the chances, it is not. It is not that doesn't matter with if you're running with i7 or i5 or i10 or something or AMD processor, because if you take any real-time classic example, every application which is globally accessed, all the different users from using different browsers, different operating systems, different bandwidth speeds, different machine configurations try to access the application. What we have one thing in common here is always the standard SLA. We are trying to facilitate, we are trying to give the best performance, the response, which is a standard number, again 3 to 5 seconds for every user, irrespective of any configurations, any bandwidth that he's using. Okay. So the bandwidth is not being simulated in your load test will give you some bad performance numbers. So you need to make sure that you're using the sufficient bandwidth. For that, we have an option called use maximum bandwidth from our runtime settings. That is always we do it. And even if you do that, you tend to see so many issues with respect to latency and bandwidth. The reason is because whatever the VMs or wherever your application is hosted, whatever the VMs you have that you're testing, they must be located or deployed somewhere in Florida or Atlanta in a different data center. Okay, so when you have some data centers will always give you this latency issues. So when you have these latency issues, the latency, whatever the delay that has happened to get the response from that particular data center, that delay will get added to the response time. Your latency is 2.2 seconds and your response time is 3.3 seconds. The response times will be 5.5 seconds of that particular transaction. So you need to exclude your latency when you publish your result, and you have to clearly understand, is that really an issue with the data center with respect to latency and bandwidth, or is that an application issue or infrastructure issue? Okay, so that is all about bandwidth. So the last point is
Okay, I have a question here.
yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, please.
How do you find the issues in network? So how can we find that there is an issue in network?
So there are specific monitors for issue in network. Okay.
There is a tool called Shenra, which has been there with Micro Focus. It has been with LoadRunner actually.
Actually, if you take any APM tool, I mean, what's your name, by the way? Who asked the question?
Mahesh, you're asking.
Mahesh, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Mahesh. So if you, I mean, I'll tell you one example. I mean, if you have, for example, if you take CA APM, right? To monitor network, you have different metrics. For example, if you take uptime or
Using these tools we can find, but without if we don't tools.
No, you also have network monitoring tools in specific. You have open source tools. You can integrate directly to your infrastructure, and most of the time, the metrics are common for all the network for network monitoring. If you take uptime, latency sensitivity, or you can look at all the high bandwidth consuming applications. There is something called quality of service QoS, and there is something called traffic shaping, which will let you know that how much traffic is being sent to each and every individual request. For all the metrics with respect to network, from all the tools are available. Once you configure the tool, you can see all the behavior in a dashboard. You have a custom dashboard for that too. For any APM tool with respect to network or with respect to any of the target server that you're monitoring in specific, you create some custom dashboard and you can check what is happening with respect to network.
So without any tools, we can't find any issues, right?
You cannot do that. It is not at all possible. Without any tool, you will never know what's happening from the network side.
Okay.
Okay.
For just I'm just adding. Maybe you can tell me also. So if that is the case, manually what we did was okay, log in from the controller where it is and ping that the load generator and see so what the difference is. Then at least we can say manually, okay, here it's 250 milliseconds. When I see the other load generator, it is saying 500 milliseconds. There is difference of 250 milliseconds.
Yeah, but when we test with multiple users, right? People ask with what happened when too many using the page. That is how the requirement is. But again, you can also use Wireshark. When you use Wireshark, right?
Yeah.
And there are a few tools like Wireshark will give you how much time it has taken for each and every individual network parameter in terms of. I did not go complete. I did not do complete R&D on Wireshark, but with the use of Wireshark, you can get the time that has been taken with respect to latency or incoming rate or outgoing rate. You can see all this data. Again, it is for only for one user when you record your user activity using Wireshark. Yeah. So test schedules, testing schedules. Okay, it is about all about the timeline. So you need to give the time appropriate estimation and the manpowers that are required for creating robust scripts, creating complicated scenarios, and creating the environment, which will take a lot of time. So accordingly, you need to have all these things in mind. You need to have some multiple meetings with all the teams, and then you have to finalize on how much time it takes to complete this particular performance assignment, at least for a release when you work on a sprint basis. Okay? So the last phase is again coming back to the same common point. Performance testers, what they do is we get some numbers, we get some TPS, we get the duration, we run it, we monitor few metrics. Analyzer component in load runner will do 70% of the work by publishing the report. So what I do here is we just add some graphs, I correlate it, I overlay or tile or merge these graphs, and I'll highlight my spikes here, and I'll tell after 2 hours of test I observed a spike in CPU. The response time, the maximum response time is 23.3 seconds at 43rd minute, and the remaining time it is under 5 seconds. This is not we should publish, right? When you publish something called report, you have to determine all the performance bottlenecks inside the application, from the infrastructure, from every tier of the application, and you need to do in-depth analysis to identify what values increased with what, and you need to look at all the metrics, and you have to clearly mention what is the abnormal behavior of a specific metric, and you have to write your recommendation on that. Okay, again, this can happen only with the help of Oracle DBA. If you're completely focusing on Oracle DB, if you're monitoring all the Linux servers, which sits on different flavors of Linux servers, Ubuntu, CentOS, and Red Hat. With respect to network also, you may not understand all the things, so you need to take the help of network, especially network administrator, to generate all the recommendations, and you put something right. This is what the next action items that we need to take care of improving the performance. So you need to clearly write, and you need to make yourself ready to work on all the different performance tuning action items. Okay, until and unless again the SLAs are achieved. Sometimes now I have a question. So you worked on a project for a year, for example, 12 months. You did not meet your SLA. So what is your recommendation or suggestion to your customer?
So first thing is, I mean, what issues you encountered? That is where we need to dig into that, right? I mean, you are going to document all those issues and what we defined in the test plan also. So you are going to compare it. Oh, this is we planned, but these are the issues we failed. We were not able to, fix it, or we were not able to, get the one what we planned to. So there is a comparison, your SLA, your baseline SLA versus in the test plan, then what you did. Compare that and what issues you encountered, and you need to provide your recommendations.
Okay. So if I'm giving you a project again, do you have confidence in achieving the SLA? What's your answer for that?
If you are giving me the project, means is the same project or the new project? Because
Same
there is a
project.
difference.
I want to improve my performance. What are all the things that I have to consider now? That is my question.
Great. So, I mean, I already mentioned, so what are the issues we encountered, and those issues needs to fix. Then I can say that, because even once I fix that issue, I don't know what is going to happen next. That is also not, we cannot assure that also, right? I mean, if you fix one issue, it is possible there could be another. So, but the point is, so these are the issues, if we fix it, it is possible, the application could work well. But again, yes, I agree that I cannot say, yes, 100% this is going to work out if you give me the project again, if these issues fix, because it is possible that, something, like the regression test, whatever we say, in that time we look into that, right? Okay, what things has been missed again, so
Uh,
I'm not
right.
sure I made you happy on that, but yes, even yeah.
The reason why I am asking all these
Yeah, this is a
questions is
perfect question actually, because we encountered this actually.
the style of evaluating the performance interviews has been completely changed. If you look at all the interviews that are happening since
Right.
last 6 months, so it is not that whatever you say everything is right or wrong, but the final motto of that interview should be like the interviewer who has taken your interview has to satisfy with all your answers. That's the main reason, especially when you have something like this process oriented or every evaluation nowadays, right? If I have a task that did not get accomplished since last 2 years, I keep asking you all the questions from my last project which is not successful, and I try to understand your opinions on that. If I am convinced with uh, with all opinions and answers, I may give you an opportunity. That is how few companies are working. Okay, so it is not that what is the difference between WebRecsive Param and WebRecsive Param EX or regular expression. Those days are gone. So it is all talking about the emerging trends on performance testing, and it is focusing on the performance engineering areas. Or everyone wants a Dynatrace who can configure, install, who can telemetry, and who can identify, pinpoint all the issues from the production or test environments. So it is talking about all the 360 degree directions. So you have to work on all these items, how to define workload modeling, NFIRs, what if I don't achieve SLAs, what is my next step, or what do I have to tell to my customer after he investing some $1 billion on the project. If my last line is we did not meet 4.5 seconds of SLA, we're still seeing 6 seconds of SLA after some 30 people from a team, including COE, working on that project for a year and did not achieve anything. What is your take on it? And if that company has if that company has to get some additional business from that client, what is your answer to that stakeholder? How can you convince him? How can you explain, make him understand that this is what happened since last 1 year? This is a really big challenge. So when you publish the results, when you talk about all these areas, you need to be very clear. And that is why the reason that is the main intention. My main intention to write this article, common mistakes in any performance testing assignment, right? That is my main motto of writing this. What do I need to tell to my customer after completion of my project? So if I don't meet any SLA, if you are avoiding all this, eliminating all these issues upfront at the very initial stage of your performance testing life cycle and engineering life cycle, it will help you to achieve your test goals, SLAs, very easily within a short period of time. Okay. So the next point is Linux monitoring. I'll just start that. Uh, you guys are aware of this MobaXterm and Excel, right?
Nope.
These are basically if you are working on multiple VMs, right? If you're working on multiple VMs, uh, I mean, it does the same thing. I am not showing the Excel now, so it does the same thing. I have a MobaXterm. So if you have multiple VMs on Linux, you can download this MobaXterm, and if you have multiple VMs on Windows, you can download RDC, remote desktop connection. You can simply, if you can just If you add your session here, it will automatically get connected to that instance. It can save your username and password. And there is another software called WinSAP. Most of the people still not aware of the basic commands on Linux. You have two different things. If you, for every performance engineer nowadays, he or she has to learn a minimum concepts of Linux. Okay, there are roughly you will have 50 commands. Okay, like ls, which will list all the folders and other things that you have in your system. And if I have one file, okay, like if I want to access music or something, most of the people still struggle in the initial days. If they don't know basic Linux, they do this thing actually. I mean, they can't go here. So for that, to access any Linux machine to Windows, there is one software called WinSCP. Okay. WinSCP. Okay. So what you can do is, this is my local, and this is where you need to give your I saved my username and password here. If I click login, you can directly go to music folder and see what is there in it. Okay, or if I want to for example, if I want to go to the C users or Java document, if I want to go to root here, this is my Linux machine which you see on the right side. So you can easily bring all your files. You can easily bring all your files like this. You can by just simply drag and drop. You can bring all your okay, from Windows to Linux. This is how you'll copy. This is not a big deal. So you can directly delete it from the Windows also. Sorry, the Linux like this. Got it? So basically, this is for when you generate an Nmon tool. Let me explain the commands first. Yeah, I'll teach you more about the Nmon tool. So this is the sample Nmon tool that I have taken. Okay. So when you generate an Nmon tool, Nmon report, I'll clearly show you how to generate the Nmon report. When you clearly, oh, this is the CPU. So if you want to generate a report, okay, if you want to capture all the values, if you want to show all of them in a pie chart diagrammatic representation, you use something called Nmon utility to monitor the Linux machines. And this is how the information will get recorded. This is the total CPU summary and disk summary and other areas of the machine for the report that I have chosen. So you have many metrics like this. It will capture all of them. This is the disk summary. It will give you the list of metrics at what time. This is one of the simple tests I have conducted where I'll push some number of records. I'll push some 100 records in 10 minutes of time frame, and in that 10 minutes of when I'm pushing this heavyweight records for 10 minutes. For example, if I'm pushing 100 records, I will select the timeline. I have to start the time frame from 8 o'clock to 8:10. Whatever the things that are happening on this Linux machine, for the entire period, for this duration, for 10 minutes, it will capture all the metrics and it will give you the representation like this. This is for a simple 100 records, but you are not seeing anything here. Even if you see here, there is no bar that it is showing, not even 2% of the CPU utilization. It will record all the CPU summary, disk size, how the disk is busy. It will give you all the different metrics, and this is the report that you will publish. And another thing is, this is not really not really used from majority of the vendors. Earlier, when we don't have the proper APM solutions in place, during those days they used to use all these SAR utility or Nmon utility. If you go to Google, there are some 30 command line tools which can help you to monitor all the Linux metrics, Linux performance monitoring. So if you want to look at this particular thing, if you click on remote monitoring by using Mobile Xterm, okay, by using Mobile Xterm itself, you can see what is this. If you hover your cursor here, you can directly see the current CPU load of this machine. Even utility is not required. If you go here, if you go here, it is if you hover your mouse here, the total RAM, the used RAM or cached RAM or buffers it is showing, right? And it is the outgoing. This is all about network. It is showing in KBs, incoming network, and this is the uptime. Since last 8 hours, it is up and running. Okay, this is the user that I logged in, and there are various other metrics that you can see directly by using Mobile Xterm. Okay, you can also directly access all the folders here. Public music, like instead of using WinSCP, you can directly go and see what is there in this music folder. Yeah, or pictures folder. Mobile Xterm is this is a cracked version that I have downloaded, but this comes with a commercial one. Okay, you can download the Excel 6 or Mobile Xterm or anything. But there are few other commands which will help you to check the performance of a particular instance or some process IDs or something. Let's example. Yes, someone has some question, right? Okay. You're able to see my screen now, right? Better?
Yes, yes.
Okay. The first command that everyone will ask for is the top command. Can you tell me what is top command and what you see here?
The top processes that is consuming the CPU.
Mm-hmm.
That is the top
And
command.
any other answers? That is the reason I typed in my command and I'm showing the dynamic content that is being displayed for all the Linux processes. Now,
I think
if
it
you
looks like
understand it correctly, I'm expecting because yeah, any answer is fine, but I would request everyone to take part of this Q&A sessions, because it will not only this will not help not only every individual, but it helps all the team. If you have a different answer, they can make a note of it. Yeah, so yeah, so any other answers for this top command?
highest or top. No.
So this is a top command utility. What it will do for you is it will display all the lines. Yes, please. Someone have some question?
No, go ahead.
Okay, okay. So this top command basically it display all the available Linux processes. Okay. What it does is it provides a dynamic real-time view of the running system. That is the actual process activity of all the Linux processes, and by default it will display the top consuming the most CPU intensive tasks running on this particular Linux server, and it updates the list every 5 seconds. For every 5 seconds it actually changes the data. Okay, you understood the top command, right? Now
Yes.
there is a command called vmstat. Can you tell me, I typed in vmstat, can you tell me what is this vmstat?
Memory.
Okay, what memory is it?
So free memory, swap memory, buffer, caching. We can able to see that. So
Okay, before talking about that, I already told all of you get
Virtual
the
machine.
knowledge on all the memory basics. This vmstat command reports information about all the processes, memory, paging, traps, and CPU activity. Basically, these are all virtual memory statistics. Okay, if I am saying vmstat 3, okay, what is it doing?
I think number 3, I'm not sure. So
Okay,
I think for each,
again, I'll change the number.
so I would say
vmstat 5.
Yeah, it will pull the matrix 5 times.
No,
no,
it
it's
is what
updating.
it is doing
So
is
each 5
for
seconds.
every 5 seconds it is capturing,
so. Basically sampling.
right? Sampling. Got it? You can take the snapshot of vmstat 15 or something. Oh, good. You can see the second record, right?
Yep.
When you talk about when you say that what did you monitor, if you say vmstat, my immediate question is what does it do? It is virtual memory statistics. Now tell me what is virtual memory.
Basically in the physical memory, so you have, let's say, 6 GB, right? When we say virtual memory means you have the used memory, and plus there is a free pool. Together we call it as virtual memory. Basically it allocates some memory, but besides it allocates an additional, which is the free pool. That together is called the virtual memory.
Okay, so if I have some time, I'll cover that topic for you. Okay. The command that I have used now is vmstat-m, which will display the complete memory utilization of the virtual memory. Okay. So, and also if you want to see the memory utilization of all the, active and inactive memory pages, you have to type in something called vmstat hyphen e. It is saying that inactive memory, active memory, free memory. If you can see, that is the list. Okay. So, and there is a command called W. Okay, W. What W will give you is it will tell you which user has logged in. Okay, how much the CPU is idle, how much it is waiting, or it will give you some information. I'm not sure about this command, but it like basically gives it displays the information about the users currently on this machine. I have logged in as root, and it will give you the process information. I'm not seeing any process here. All right. Okay. These are the main important commands. Whenever you see some bottleneck, you found that you identified that there is some slowness, or the Linux server is not not responding, then you give uptime. When you give the uptime, it will tell you for how long time can be used to see how long the server has been running, the current time, and it also how many users are currently logged in. Only one user, if you can see the load average, the time it is giving, if you see 3:39, now it is 8:47 something, right? So these are all few commands which you need to process. Is actually, if you don't
But okay, I can
type
ask the
your,
question. You want me to wait?
let me complete because it is already 8:10, right?
Right.
Yeah, we'll wait. I'll wait for you after completing the session. Okay, can have. So, and one advice to all of you is you can you can install something called Oracle VirtualBox if you are aware. I don't know how many of you are aware. You can install this Oracle VirtualBox. You can you can download the image of CentOS or Red Hat or Ubuntu. It will not take more than 3 GB or 4 GB of your RAM. it will need that amount of free space. That's all. It will not directly allocate or eat all the available RAM. Once you have this Oracle VirtualBox on your laptop, you also have some Google YouTube video on that. Install Oracle VirtualBox. You install CentOS 8 or CentOS 7.x is also fine, and I can send you all the list of commands. You practice that. That is how you will how you'll get some uh, knowledge on all the commands that we do. Okay. Basically, what PS command does is PS will list out all the processes. Will report the snapshot of all the current processes. Actually, if you want to select any specific process, you can just give PS hyphen process ID. I mean, knife. Okay. Okay. These are all the main important. If you want to know how many processes are running on Java process, Java. Okay. So what do you know? What is the use of grep?
It's a search.
Right. Grep is basically for search. PS hyphen something like sorry. Grep command can be used for so so there are other two commands which are very important. So these commands it's like a PS hyphen AUXF sort hyphen N. Sort pipe. This is the command. Okay. So basically, what it will do is it will list out the top 10 memory consuming processes. It is the same. It is the same command for top 10 CPU consuming processes, but it is the only thing that it will change is PS hyphen AUXF sort E. 3 is for top 10 consuming CPU process. Okay. Hyphen 4 is for top consuming memory process. The only difference is that. Okay. So this is how you identify the top processors, the top 10 processors that are consuming memory, and the top 10 processors consuming CPU. And basically, if you type free command, it will give you the list of the used and free memory, the swap memory, all this information on your current Linux server. And the iostat command, basically what it will do is it will give you all the CPU statistics. Okay, the user time, the system time, IO wait time, idle time. Idle time, if you see, it is 98.99 because I did not install anything on this machine. Okay, this is basically iostat will give you all the CPU average CPU information and the input output statistics for all the devices and other partitions that you have in the disk NFS network file systems. Okay, there is a command called, there is a utility called SAR. We have to download this and we have to monitor, and you can pull the report. I will talk about SAR and Nmon tomorrow. That is the only class. You can just work on one utility. Nmon would be more than sufficient. Okay. there is another command called mpstat. What this mpstat will do is, mpstat it will display all the activities for each available processor, for every processor, right? Uh, do you see anything called zero? You have only one processor here. Stat.
Yeah, I see 0.
Okay.
GNICE
Okay.
0.00.
Okay. So there is, if you talk about all these different commands, right? There are hundreds of commands like pmap. So pmap will give you, I don't know what it gives. What this command actually? Basically, this is used for. I don't have any processes running, so basically this is used for to find out the causes of memory bottlenecks. PMAP. You can make a note. PMAP. If you have any process ID, top consuming memory processing, memory consuming process, PMAP -D. This is the command. PMAP -D. If you give the process ID, right? -D. I'm giving my process ID 0. There is nothing, no data. Okay, I'll bring some activity onto this machine. Again, I'll show you the Nmon everything clearly. If I type something called netstat, which will give you the network statistics, how it is connected and how it is streaming with all the displays all the network connections, routing tables, and other statistics. How it is connected with along with all the process IDs. Okay, these are the most commonly used commands. And someone asked me like how you can monitor the traffic. This one, right, on Linux. On Linux, what you can do is, this is how you can the command called TCP dump. This will give you the network detailed traffic analysis. It's a simple command for capturing all the traffic on a network to see what is happening. If you have, but if you want to understand this, right, if you want to stop or if you want to understand this, you have to you should have some detailed understanding on TCP/IP protocol, how it will utilize this tool or this command, how this tool will work, how this command will work basically. And we will stop here. There are other few commands. I would like to take it tomorrow, and I will teach Perfmon. Perfmon is, you must be aware of this Perfmon, right? Hang on.
Perfmon is for only Windows, right? Isn't it?
Yes, Perfmon. Oh, I don't know. Okay, any questions? No.
Yeah, I'm waiting, and I'm not sure how much time you have. I'll go one shot. I mean, whatever you can. That should be fine. We can discuss more tomorrow. Linux, I'll ask you tomorrow, but I'll ask this now. The first thing is about that 5%. I guess our regular test, that should be 5% to acceptable, but we can ignore for the soak test because it is going to be 20%. Yes.
The question is, can we ignore 5% error rate for soak test?
Yes. Because what my understanding is, soak test is for most of the time it is for resource monitoring. So what I mean is, okay, for throughout the 24 hours, in the midnight, the servers might be bouncing or something. So when they comes back, how they pick up and what response time it is, and you will be monitoring everything in within 24 hours or 36 hours. That is one thing. And other thing is there any memory leaks or something? That is also gives the answer for the soak test. That is the more the more targetable things we plan for the soak test. But with respect to the response times, errors, it's kind of it is a secondary. That's what my understanding is.
Okay. So soak test is basically an endurance test, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So if you're when you are doing endurance testing, the motto obviously will change. So instead of focusing on all the response times, we focus on the resource utilizations and throughput, because we are doing it for continuous availability, right? We're checking the continuous availability and sustainability over a period of time. So whatever the 5% error rate that I'm talking about, that error rate is the standard actually for any of the testing. But if you're seeing, again, the requirement varies from client to client and organization to organization. Even for me, there are situations where I have continued with all the tests, where when I saw some 25% to 30% of the error rate, because the test was running for 5 long days. Whatever the test that I'm doing. So if my target is 5% error rate, I cannot go ahead and test that. I cannot really test that 5 days duration scenario. So here, if your requirement is different other than this error rate, you can go ahead and test that. There are no issues. But if you continuously tend to see the increase in error rate, then you have to definitely stop your test. Let's say that if you're running it for 10 hours, you're saying that if you have 10% or 15% error rate, as you are worried about other resource monitoring and other availability test. So you continuously saw the error rate was constant after 4 hours of completion of your test. The error rate went to 7 to 11%, and it is constant for another 2 hours. And after 6 hours of test, when your test duration is actually 10 hours, if it is keep on increasing, then you obviously stop your test. Or even if you don't stop your test, your error rate will reach 100%, because there must be some resource crunch, or there must be some shortage of the memory or CPU or any other values that are exceeding the threshold limits. So there is no specific standard. You can, if you have a different requirement, when your customer is okay to continue your test, if your error rate is below 20%, you can go ahead and you can continue your test.
Perfect. So with respect to the test data, you mentioned the tools. Will it be possible you can share with us? To be honest, I never used any tools. We manually did, or we through our we use we have the scripts ready and create them and created ourselves. But I haven't used any tool.
Okay, I'll share you the test tools names. However, they're commercial, but you get some basic idea, or you can also upload your own resume saying that I have worked on this tool.
Right.
Okay.
So the final is the VTS. So how good it is, your recommendation on the VTS, virtual table server? Because once you have the user IDs, so VTS is the best option, right? The reason is, let's say you run the test, after 15 minutes you need to stop because of the errors. Then if you want to go back and remove them, you don't know how many user IDs you used. If it's a VTS, it's automatically is going to delete for you. So is it feasible, or that is not recommendable?
It is not that you should not use it, but however you can use it, but again it depends. So you are asking me whether you can go ahead and use the virtual table server
Yep.
in
Yep.
Loader. Yes, you can use it. Then it is a tools. That is the simple functionality of that is it enables the sharing of test data and parameters, right?
Right.
Between the loader and users, that you can
Right.
use it. If you want only the simulation part, you can use it. No issues in it.
So I have two more, but we'll talk tomorrow. That is the Linux thing. Load average, I try to understand that, but because both CPU and load average feels like similar, but technically not. That's what I'm understanding. That is one thing.
Yeah.
And
So
about that
that's what
RStat daemon. I'm sorry.
Orsted daemon. Okay, I did
Right.
not tell you. I'll tell you tomorrow. Orsted daemon, I'll tell you tomorrow.
Yeah.
There are other few commands. I mean, what I have identified few commands that will be a part of every performance engineer's role. So whatever the commands that I am using for monitoring and troubleshooting all the Linux servers, I'm explaining all of them here. And another thing is when you request for something called real time, what I would like all of you to do is install Oracle VirtualBox. Do it today and execute all the commands. You will not have more than 50 commands. Simple. If you go back, if you go to any interview and if someone is asking you what is the use of grep command, if you say that I worked on Linux machines, Linux performance monitoring, what is the use of grep command? Grep command is a simple search. Grep radha is nothing but finding a word radha in the below tables. That's all. In your Linux machine. One simple stupid question can stop you from selecting the interview. So when I'm teaching this session, I will send you some 50 to 60 commands, execute all the commands, get familiarized with all the commands, and you can clearly write saying that we have monitored all the Linux machines and we have seen all other things, okay, from the Linux machines, like top 10 consuming memory processes. He can ask you what is the command. Why I have shown you one command, right? That is one command. Top 10 memory, top 10 CPU, top 10 IO statistics, CPU statistics, network statistics, TCP dump. Now you must be knowing what is TCP dump. Okay. Anyway, we will talk about the SAR and NMON tomorrow. So after that, we will discuss few things about Perfmon also tomorrow. Perfmon is very simple task. Very simple task. We need not worry much about that. You can also is right, perfmon.msc, or you can also simply type perfmon. This is the basic perfmon. You can create a data collector set. You can give the start time and end time. It will monitor all the. You can see, it is very simple. Okay, this is nothing to do with this perfmon also. You have all the different metrics, and you can select all of them. You can pull the report and you can see what happened to CPU, what happened to processor, and other stuff. Okay, we'll talk about the remaining things tomorrow. Anupam, there on the call? So, if you are not able to hear, or if you have any questions, I am not checking my chat window. You can always, you can interrupt me and you can address the issue the problem that you have. If you are not able to see my screen or not able to hear my audio or anything, you can immediately step in then and there, and you can ask for that, because I'm not checking the chat window here. So if you have anything, you can directly ask from here. Okay, all right. I know if you have some of the people are traveling to office by connecting their headset, they are logging in from their phones. Even if I get some background noise, I'm okay with it. If you have any issues, you can stop me then and there, and you can ask me for any question that you have. All right. I don't have any issues. All right. Nice talking to you, all of you, for your time. We'll connect tomorrow.
Thank you, RK.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.